Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Anton San Diego, the editor-in-chief of Tatler Philippines, and welcome to another Tatler Talks. Nice to see some familiar names on my screen. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a great vacation. Hello as well to our friends and colleagues in the region from Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Taiwan. Today is a special day as we have as our guest, one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world. He is the best-selling author of the Crazy Rich Asians trilogy, and now the best-selling author of the hottest book of 2020, or as the Philippine Daily Inquirer labeled it as, the perfect escape hatch for the pandemic. You know the name of the book, Sex and Vanity. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome all the way from Los Angeles, the amazing and talented, a dear friend of Tatler Asia, Mr. Kevin Kwan.
Hey.
Hey,
good morning.
Kevin.
It's good to be here.
Good evening to you. What time is it there?
I don't even know. 8 o'clock, I think. It's not late at all, but.
How are you?
Yeah. I'm good. It's great to be here and doing this and to be doing something with Tatler.
Yes, and it's
My
such a
first
thrill to
Asia
have you.
event.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Please say hello to our viewers.
Hello. Good morning.
Who's all over Asia. So what have you been? So I know you've been so busy. You're doing all these promotions, all these things. So what else have you been up to besides promoting the book?
You know, the book is really the main thing at the moment. You know, it's in 40 languages all around the world. So I've been doing interviews all around the world in different time zones. So I live with permanent jet lag now for the last few weeks, but it's all good. And, you know, when I'm not doing that, I'm actually working on a TV project. So I'm writing a script for a new TV series.
Fantastic. Can you tell us about it? No.
I wish I could. I've signed so many Hollywood NDAs that I can't say anything about it. But
okay.
Hopefully we can talk about it very, very soon. You know, it's
fantastic. Kevin,
yeah.
We have a lot to tackle, so let's start off. When did you start writing the book, Sex and Vanity?
So I physically started writing this book back in October. It only took me 4 months to write this book. But I would say that, you know, in my brain, I've been writing it for about 10 years. I've been collecting the ideas, the stories. I've been letting it sort of really marinate. And then when it was time to write it, I just, you know, went into my writer's cave and wrote 12 hours a day for 4 months and made it happen.
Yeah. So we don't want to spoil it for your fans out there, but in your own words, can you tell us the gist of the book? A bit about a book.
Authors are always the worst people to describe their books. The book begins at a wedding in Capri, and our heroine is a woman by the name of Lucy Tang Churchill. You meet her when she's first 19 years old, and she is a biracial American. So her mother is American-born Chinese, but her father comes from a very elite East Coast WASP. We call that white Anglo-Saxon Protestant family. So she's grown up like a Park Avenue princess, but she's biracial. And she goes to Capri to attend a really dear friend's wedding. And there she meets a boy by the name of George Zhao. He is from Hong Kong, but he spent time in Australia. So he's kind of a surfer, kind of jock, but an interesting, brooding, quiet guy. And so she meets him and is instantly attracted, but of course spends all her time trying her best not to fall for him. So that's how it begins.
Great. You said the book was inspired by E.M. Forster's classic Room with a View and the movie, which was a fantastic as well. Can you tell us about this as well?
Yeah, A Room with a View was one of my favorite books, growing up. As a teenager, I discovered it when I was in high school and really loved the way Forster, he was a satirist. He really had an interesting way of looking and gently sort of poking fun at the British upper classes. And he was really ahead of his time, I felt, and he, of course, wrote this beautiful book set in Italy, and reading it made me want to go to Italy. And then, of course, the movie came out by Merchant Ivory Productions, James Ivory and Ismail Merchant. It was their first huge breakaway hit. And it became, this was back in 1985, like international sensation. It was an unexpected global hit. And it really, I think, was a pioneering movie because it paved the way for all these other English period movies to come afterwards, that would also do so well. Pride and Prejudice, Downton Abbey, this was that movie that really sort of set the tone and, for that whole English country house drama. And so I loved them both, and it really inspired me to want to, retell this story, but in a very modern setting with a modern character and really make it my own story.
Yes. Kevin, tell us about your creative process. What were the challenges you faced? I mean, 4 months. I can't believe you did this in 4 months because it seems like a lot of research was done for the book. I mean, there's characters and so much experiences and all these things. But what is your creative process like?
I wish I could give you a really, expert look at it. It's for me, it's very haphazard. I really lock myself in a room and I write for 10 hours and something, some days are good, some days are bad, but most days I really am able to channel these characters and channel their voices and really tell this story. And I even surprise myself, at the end of the day, I'll go back and I'll read what I've written and I have no idea where most of it came from. So it's, the creative process itself is a mysterious process, even to me. I just sit there with an idea and then strange things happen.
On a side note, I just want to say that I am so jealous in the book of all those characters with multi-hyphenated schools that they came from and universities. I mean, I'm like, some of them I've never heard of. I'm pretty sure they're prestigious and elite and all these things. And I also like the reference to 80s icons, Michael Schofling of 16 Candles and Phoebe Cates, who I think is half Filipina.
Everyone says she's half Filipina, and I think Wikipedia even says she's half Filipina, but she's not.
Yeah, that's where I got that.
So originally, not to give away too many spoilers, there's a footnote that involves Phoebe Cates. And in my footnote, I said, Phoebe Cates is half Filipino. And someone at my publishers, while we were in the editing process, had spotted that and happened to know Phoebe Cates, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
And actually got, knew someone in her family. And so they got in touch to verify the fact, and it came back like, no, Phoebe Cates is not Filipino. She is of Russian, Chinese, and Jewish ancestry. And they have no idea how the Filipino thing ever, was created. I mean, she loves the Philippines, but she's not Filipino. So I got to correct that in my footnote. Even though, you Google it, that's what it says.
I know we laid claim, growing up, we laid claim to the fact that she was Filipino. So that is so disappointing. But anyway, What do you think about the WASP Society that you were talking about earlier and played by Cecil in the book? Is it a dying breed?
I don't think it's necessarily dying, but I think what's happening is that the WASP establishment used to have all the power. You know, they were the power elite of America, and they were certainly all the famous families that were involved in ruling America in the earlier part of the 20th century, the Roosevelts, for example, and you know all the great families like the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, and even earlier before that, the Livingstons. So there's a long history of sort of the ruling elite coming from WASP families, and these days America has really changed so much, and now
Yeah.
we have this all these tech billionaires that are the new money
Mhm.
who I
Yeah.
think are, in many ways far more influential these days. Jeff
Hmm.
Bezos, I think, is arguably much more influential than the average WASP politician.
Exactly. Yeah. In the book, you reference the Philippines and Filipinos, so thank you so much for that. The Ortiz sisters, Paloma and Mercedes. Um, who did you have in mind in writing their characters, and why make them Filipino as they could have been any nationality?
Well, I'm always about showcasing variety and diversity in my books. And I felt it was interesting. In the original E.M. Forster book, there are two sisters. They're called the
Hmm.
Miss Allens. Catherine and her sister, and they're these very elderly spinster British women who are very funny. But I wanted my sisters to be glam, completely glam, and totally sophisticated with it, beautiful, sort of social women. And so, like, why not have an amazing pair of Filipina sisters who are glamorous and jet setting and are part of this amazing world?
Great, thank you
And
so
yeah, there
much for
were a
that.
few inspirations behind them, but I'm not telling who
Who?
they are.
Who?
Don't put me on the spot, Anton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel that Lucy Tang Churchill, the heroine of the book, who's half British, half Chinese, and the fact that she's wealthy, accomplished, she's an art consultant, because she's half Asian, she can still be looked down on, even coming from that segment of society.
Definitely. I think that's still very, it's a problem we're dealing with right now as we speak in America, race relations and the complexities of being part of a racial minority is really something we're having to reckon with. And I think it's for many biracial people, whether they are African American or whether they're Chinese American, it's still a struggle, and there are still challenges. Some people do really, really well. I contrast my character Lucy with her brother.
Hmm.
So Lucy is, we say, she's a little more, she presents looking more Asian than she does Caucasian. Whereas her brother actually looks much more kind of J. Crew preppy. He actually can pass for being Caucasian. And he has a far different experience growing up than she does, living in
Yeah.
America, and
Hmm.
what she goes through, in her daily life. It's all these very tiny microaggressions that she has to, the sort of veiled insults and even unintentional insults that she hears from her family, from her friends, collectively, over her childhood that I think affect her and cause her to make some of the crazy decisions she makes in the book.
Yeah. The book is a trilogy and pays homage to Capri and New York. And I've never been to Capri,
I
and
can't believe
I,
that.
I after reading this, I am going there as soon as this thing is over. I heard the next two books will be on Paris and London. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this new trilogy, I'm calling it the Cities trilogy because really it's linked by different cities. This
Uh
story
huh.
I just told
Yeah.
is the New York story. The next story will be the London story, and the final book in the trilogy will be the Paris story. So the cities become almost like a character in the books, and that's the through line that connects these three stories. Lucy's story is finished with this book. You won't. She might
Yeah.
make a guest appearance, but I will have new characters, new storylines in the next two books.
Uh huh. And I heard that this book is going to be a movie. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's very, very
How did that?
exciting.
That is fast. How did that happen? I mean, you present it to Hollywood, and that they pick it up and say, "Yes, Let's go.
Yeah, basically that's what happened. I mean, there was a lot of stuff behind the scenes happening. Even as I was
Yeah.
finishing the book, Hollywood was already interested. So the talks began very early in terms of, whether there was a lot of interest. Even when I wasn't done writing the book, there was interest. So I'm very
Yeah.
lucky and fortunate. And Sony
That-
is doing the movie, and they are so excited, and they've made some of my favorite movies of the past couple of years. Last
Yeah.
year they did Emma. I don't know if you ever saw Emma, the adaptation of the Jane Austen novel, which
Yes.
was fantastic. And of course, they did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with
Yes.
Leo and Brad
Brad
Pitt.
Pitt.
So I mean,
Uh-huh.
they're really making amazing films, and it's going to be very exciting to
Great.
be working with them on this one.
Kevin, will you indulge me? Here are my bets to play
Okay.
the characters in Sex and Vanity. Here we go. For Lucy Churchill, I think Kristen Crook. I don't know if you know her. She's the girl in
Absolutely.
Smallville.
She was in
She's
Smallville.
gorgeous.
Absolutely. Smallville was my
She's
father's favorite TV show, believe it or not.
really,
He watched every
and
episode of it. Yeah.
she's half Dutch and Chinese. And Daniel Henney,
Daniel Henney, we all
George
know
Yao.
him.
Yeah, I think he's Korean, right? No, maybe.
He's actually Hapa. He's biracial. So he's
Yeah.
half American, half Korean, I believe.
And for Cecil, I mean, you reference this in your book, it's Army Hammer, because I thought,
No.
I mean, I couldn't think of anyone else. But if ever, I would nominate as well Heart Evangelista as Lucy Churchill. If that's going to be if my 2 cents worth can come in.
Thank you for the
let's
nomination. We will definitely keep that in mind.
Thanks. Let's go to Crazy Rich Asian. Because of the massive success of Crazy Rich Asian, you have been credited for reinforcing Asians in their rightful place in Hollywood and in mainstream. When you look back at the success, did you ever imagine the impact of it all?
I still can't believe it happened. It still feels like an out-of-body experience to me. I can't believe we actually got a movie made. I can't believe people actually came to see it, and it became the huge hit it was. I feel so lucky and so grateful that people came out and supported. So I was really just the foot soldier. It's really all the people that came out and spent the money and bought up theaters and would see it again and again with their families that made this the hit it was. That really sort of proved to Hollywood that people want to see new faces and new locations and new stories. They don't just want to see, no disrespect, because I love the Marvel movies, but people want to be surprised and taken on a ride and to learn new things and to meet new people. And I've always been saying it for years and years. Hollywood used to be afraid to cast unknown actors, and I said, well, Hollywood in the past, they made superstars. They took unknown people and made them stars, and they proved that they did it again with Crazy Rich Asians. Look at Henry Golding and Gemma Chan and Constance Wu. I mean, Constance was already a big star, but like Awkwafina. So many amazing people. So their careers exploded because of Crazy Rich Asians, and it proves the formula can work. And so it's great that Hollywood is listening. It's great that so many more new projects, involving Asians have been greenlit over the last couple of years, and it's very, very hopeful.
Yeah, but in Crazy Rich Asians, you reveal this whole culture and that most of the world has never known. Or was there any backlash from Singapore or other Asian countries, and about shining the light on their eccentricities and the wealth in this part of the world?
I personally didn't experience any backlash. I people have been very nice and polite and congratulatory about it. And so to me, they seem to be pretty happy. I know quite a few people in the different social scenes, the high society worlds of Singapore and Hong Kong, who have gone around claiming to be inspirations for the characters. So to me, that's very complimentary. They're not unhappy about it. So, I do this, I satirize this world with a lot of love. I'm not there to expose secrets or take down anyone. I'm really, my intention was showing the world, the Western world especially, that, look, this is Asia, and you better take notice because this is where everything is happening. The inspiration, the art, the money. This is the locus of power is just shifting east, and you better pay attention.
Yeah, Are there any fun anecdotes you can share about Crazy Rich Asian experience? You were mentioning about people telling you that they think that it was based on them, but any other stories about maybe the wealth and the or experiences they've had that they shared with you?
Well, it's interesting. After the first book came out, I went to Shanghai to do research for
Okay.
the second book, China Rich Girlfriend. And I grew up in Singapore. I know Singapore society well. I know all the players. So that was such an easy book to read. But China was really a mystery to me. I really had to go deep in the research, and I really wanted to meet, who are the China rich, because they are rich in a way that is dwarfs everyone else,
Yeah.
in Asia at the
Yeah.
moment. They're making, tens of billions overnight. And so I was actually introduced to quite a few of these people. And it was interesting how open people were to me. And it almost became like I would meet someone, and then 2 days later they go, "Oh, you have to meet this other person. And he wants to show you his private club, or he wants to take you here." So they really opened up their world to really give me a glimpse, at the private world of wealth that exists there. And it was jaw-dropping, pretty amazing to see. I went to a private club that only has 8 members. And 8 is a very lucky. It's a very lucky number for Chinese. It means prosperity.
Yeah.
But it's 8 exclusive members at this gigantic club. But these 8 people, of course, can invite hundreds of their friends, and to make up to make it a very active, vibrant club.
I'm wondering how much a membership fee is for those 8 people.
I didn't even want to dare ask. Yeah. If you have to ask, you can't afford it. That's what they always say.
Exactly. Yeah. I can't afford it. How was it like working with our very own Chris Aquino in the movie Crazy Rich Asians?
I mean, she was amazing. I mean, she lent the movie, I think, the regal presence that we needed, for that scene. And it's probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, is when she enters and sits down and has that conversation with Rachel Chu. It's to me, it's such a pivotal moment in the movie. And she did it so beautifully, and she looked so great. So it was really, for me, an honor that she graced us, with her presence in the movie.
She's looking great. I saw a photo of her recently with her short hair. She's looking good.
She posted a video today, right? I think, where she just has this really cool new bob haircut. So fantastic.
Great. Hi, Chris, if you're watching.
Hi, Chris. You're watching.
Like you mentioned earlier, Henry Golding, Constance Wu, and Aquafina. And actually, there's a Filipino actor there called Nico Santos. Whose careers have skyrocketed. I'm so proud of also Aquafina. I think she's amazing. How is it like working with them?
I mean, it was really such a pleasure to meet all these young, super talented people, and I think for us, when we were casting the movie, we really wanted to think outside the box. We really didn't want just pretty faces. We wanted people that had this amazing raw talent, and Aquafina, she's a comedian, she's a rapper. She's so dynamic in the most original way. And so we felt, to showcase her and to showcase someone like Nico, who is in Superstore and is such a great comic genius himself. We really wanted to showcase a whole new generation of Asians who are amazing comics or amazing dramatic actors. There's Harry Shum, who can dance like no one else. Of course, his cameo only, was like 3 seconds, but it was a very important 3 seconds in the movie. But it was really a pleasure to get to know these actors and to see their careers. Well. All blossoming.
It's amazing. In your third book of the Crazy Rich Asians trilogy, Rich People's Problems, you introduce a lot of Filipino characters to the book, to your world. How did this come about? Of course, I am beyond flattered that I made it as a character in your book. And
that wasn't you, though. That wasn't you. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. But here's a list of characters who are Filipinos. China Cruz. I wonder who she is. Doris Ho. I wonder who she is. Tommy Yip. Diego San Antonio. Well, I kind of know that person. And personalities like Manny Pacquiao, Karen Davila, Ramon Arlina. So how did this all come about?
The whole goal of the Crazy Rich Asians trilogy, like the reason I called it Crazy Rich Asians, was because it was always my intention to showcase different parts of Asia. I didn't want
Mhm.
to. This was never supposed to be just Crazy Rich Singapore. So as you see, from book 2 to book 3, we jump. We go to Hong Kong. We go to China. In book 3, I purposefully wanted to showcase Manila society because, in my experience of Manila society, it's such an amazing, sophisticated, glamorous world, and I wanted the world to know about that. So it was very important to me to sort of to represent for the Philippines and to have these
Oh,
characters that to me are so colorful and have been so welcoming to me. So it was time to sort of pay it forward.
thank you. Thank you so much. Let's talk about your love affair with the Philippines. You came here 5 years ago and were introduced to us by Chris Diaz, the beautiful Chris Diaz of Fully Booked.
Absolutely.
What was your experience like in the Philippines?
Well, it wasn't my first time in the Philippines. I had
Okay.
I had been here before in the 90s, with a very, very dear friend of mine, and who hosted me and showed me around Manila, and I fell in love with Manila even back then. Of course, I was
Yeah.
much younger, and it was a very different crowd. We went to a lot of clubs. We
Mm-hmm.
went to listen to a lot of bands. There were a lot of dive bars involved.
Singing. Yeah.
So I got to see a different side of Manila at that point. But it really, from that first trip, I loved it. And so to come back and tour, and to meet you and to meet Chris and all these wonderful people and to see a different slice of the Philippines was even more enriching for me. And then of
Yeah.
course to go to Palawan and just, I'm an island boy. I grew up in Singapore and I've always loved going to islands. I wrote a whole book. I wrote the Fodor's Guide to Bahamas. I don't know if you know that.
Wow.
So I love tropical islands, and I'd heard about Palawan. I'd never been there, but to finally go there, and to me, it's the most beautiful beaches in the world, bar none.
I know. We have a photo of
So
Palawan as well.
yeah,
That is absolutely, yes, we love Palawan so much. It's one of our actually it's voted, I think, the best island in the world this year, or the last two
yeah,
years or 3 years running already. And because you
deservingly
like dive,
so. I
yeah, and
do.
you
Yeah,
like
I
diving as
love.
well.
Yeah, I love diving. I love going on boats. I love all the different water activities.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just paradise. Can't wait to
Was
go
there
back.
anything? I know we can't wait to have you back. But was there anything memorable experience you've had, like food? We love our mangoes. I don't know if you loved our mangoes.
Love mangoes. I
Uh,
mean, I also I'm addicted to garlic rice. Ever since I
okay.
discovered it, in the Philippines, I've been making garlic rice. Now these days, I can't have rice unless it's garlic rice.
No,
So yeah,
really?
absolutely. So it's sort of changed my palate. Like I can't eat plain rice anymore. It's so boring. I mean, compared to garlic rice, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it
And
was
and
great to do that. And then of course, Raman Orlina, the fabulous sculptor, is actually a good
yes.
friend of the family. So it was finally
Oh,
I'd
okay.
heard about him for so many years, from relatives, and to finally get to meet him and see his work and visit his museum in Tagaytay, it was very, very cool. So every time I come, I discover a little more of the Philippines, and it's really my hope to come back and stay a lot longer and really see a lot more provinces and get to know the country more because there's such an amazing history here, and so many things to see.
You are always welcome. Definitely,
I hope
everyone is going to
so.
welcome
Yeah.
you with open
Yeah.
arms for sure. Your experience in the book signing. I know you went to Manila and Cebu, and you had book signings with National Bookstore, Fully Booked, and Manila House. And here are some photos of your time here. And
It's so special, to me. I love doing book signings, but there was something so special about doing signings in the Philippines because the readers here are so passionate and they're so friendly.
yeah,
I think in America people tend to be more reserved. They just hand you the book, you sign it, you don't talk to them. They just want the book signed. But in the Philippines, like every time I would do something, I would meet these people and we would talk and they would tell me their stories. And there was a woman who I can't remember her name, but she gave me this bracelet that I'm wearing, this beautiful
no,
bracelet of different crystals, with all the different chakras. And
oh, that's
she
nice.
left me a letter, and the letter, I didn't read it until later, after the event. But she said she was going through chemotherapy while she read my
Oh,
book,
wow.
and
Hmm.
she really credits my book for making her laugh, for relieving the pain as she was really suffering, these several weeks that she was doing. And that was so touching to me to really get the letter. And so, I wear this a lot and just really think of, the little things that I can do to help. And it's always been my goal, to write books and make people laugh and to bring them joy and healing.
Entertain them. Yes. Amazing story. You also attended so many parties in your honor, like this one given by Ching Cruz, our good friend.
Fabulous Ching Cruz. Yeah. I mean,
here's some photos from that. That dog made it to your rich people's problems.
He did. He made a cameo.
Yeah. Here's some fabulous people in that party.
Absolutely. So many happy memories. I wish I was in the Philippines right now, but it's very seldom that countries have opened themselves up and really welcomed me in the way the Philippines has. So I'm so
nice to know.
Extremely grateful.
Well, that's great. We love you here. Before we move on, we want to welcome our dear friends. I know they've been waiting in the background for the longest time, but the lovely ladies, Miss Karen Davila and Heart Evangelista. Yay!
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey. Say hi to each other.
Hello, hello, Heart. Hello, Heart. Hello, Kevin.
So good to see you all.
It was fun.
Karen, how did you guys? Okay, do a screenshot.
One more. Smile.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do it with the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Everyone looked so photogenic except me.
No, you look great.
Very, very tough crowd to be next to.
Karen, how did you and Kevin meet? What's the story behind that?
Well, I actually met Kevin professionally, so to speak. I interviewed him on KidStar twice, not once, but twice, right? Kevin for the first book and the second book. And I think from the very first time we met, we hit it off. It wasn't just an ordinary interview. We stayed in touch even on WhatsApp after that. We conversed, a few times. And in some dinners in Manila, we still stayed in touch. And I don't know. I mean, there's something special about Kevin, I have to say. And I think what's special about Kevin is the one thing that he appreciated, I remember that I got about his book, was when he wrote Crazy Rich Asians, he actually loved the character of Elizabeth Bennet in Pride and Prejudice. And Elizabeth Bennet is my personal heroine because Elizabeth Bennet is a woman that would essentially was not dependent on a man, but would find a way for herself in the world. And Kevin said that he always wanted to make strong female characters. And that was the kind of woman that he wanted in all his stories. Right, Kevin? So that was, for me, like something that we resonated with.
I still remember that interview. And I still think, you've given two of my favorite interviews ever, really.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, seriously, because only you would would make that association with Elizabeth Bennet. Usually when I do TV in the rest of the world, it's 1 minute long, and they always ask these really kind of very simple questions like, oh, what's the most crazy rich thing you've done or seen? I thought that we could talk about books, about character, about people. It's so refreshing. So thank you for bringing such an intelligence and a wisdom to your interviews. It's great. And so I love telling people about the great Karen Davila, in the Philippines.
Oh, will you please? No, and thanks for including me in the book. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, how could I not?
I'll ask you a question later. Okay.
Okay, and with Heart, you have had a great experience with Heart. You guys were in Paris Couture Week together. Maybe Heart, you want to share?
Yeah, so it's funny because when Kevin messaged me, I was like, I don't think I fit the role. And he's like, no, don't worry, blah, blah, blah. And then it was so nice because we really got to spend like 4 days, and it was just really going around Paris, and in between our work, we would have dinners, and, we really got to bond, and it was so, so nice. And, especially now that we can't really travel, it's such a beautiful memory that you'd like to go back to from time to time. But I first met Kevin here in the Philippines. I actually remembered when you were being interviewed, I saw you at the Shangri-La at the lobby, but I was too shy to approach you. But then later on that night, that day, we had dinner, so that was the first time that I met you. But yeah, it's been really good because we've been in contact, and we do a lot of chicas and stuff like that. So it's really nice to get to know Kevin, and it also changed. Well, for me, I just couldn't believe how he was so humble. Like, he's so nice and so easy to talk to. He actually knows my entire life now. I tell him it's really nice. It's really nice. It's so nice to see him again.
Paris was such a special experience, and it was such an honor to, I don't write for magazines. I am a horrible magazine writer, quite frankly. Like, I like writing fiction. But Harper's Bazaar, for years, they were trying to get me to write about something, for them. And I said, I just don't have time. I'm writing novels, I'm writing TV, I'm writing movies. Like, I don't have time to write a fashion story. But finally they said, what if we sent you to Couture Week? And what if you could choose the people you wanted to take to Couture Week? And so, I really saw that as an opportunity, number one, to showcase the amazing, stylish style icons that I know in Asia, from different parts of the region. I was like, well, this I have to do because this is almost like a social service. I have to promote the Asian cause, And of course, I've always wanted to go to Couture Week and sort of experience this. It's beyond private. It's the press isn't even invited. It's really only for the people who buy couture, who are paying $500,000 for a dress. So to peek behind that curtain and to see that world was so special, and to do it with Heart and with Fei Ping and the Yo sisters, it was amazing. So the video we made from that, I don't know if you guys know, is the most watched fashion video in Harper's Bazaar history.
Wow.
So I think it has 10 million views now, I think, on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
Something like that, So it's off the charts. The most popular video they've ever done on harpersbazaar.com.
You mentioned the names of the ladies. Who were they? Who were the other ladies?
So the
you
other
mentioned, and which country were they from?
Fei Ping Chang is from Hong Kong. She's of Taiwanese ancestry, but she's sort of one of these international Asians. She grew up in Sydney, she went to NYU, she lived in Singapore. Now she's based in Hong Kong. And interestingly enough, I didn't know her then, but she had the most beautiful, exquisite wedding in Capri.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And she got married at Villa Lysis, which is, it was one of the inspiration points because my characters get married at Villa Lysis. That's one of the locations of their wedding. But if you Google her name and her wedding, it was covered in Vogue magazine, and it was absolutely exquisite.
Her dress was so beautiful.
Yeah, Jean-Baptiste Valli, so she has exquisite taste. Wow. She's such a great style ambassador. And then there were the 21-year-old twin sisters, Michelle Yeoh and her sister Rachel, who, have been wearing couture since they were 9 years old.
They would be watching.
They would be on the Chanel runway, and then they...
grandmother and...
Exactly. And then they even walked for Dolce & Gabbana, A few years ago, Dolce & Gabbana did a very special show where they were showcasing, they used real people, but not just any real people. They were using princes and princesses, children of famous people.
Where are they from?
They are from Malaysia.
Malaysia.
They're Malaysian.
But Kevin, what struck you most about Heart?
Yeah,
Harper's Bazaar said that you can choose anyone, and right from the Philippines, you chose Heart.
I think I was just really consistent.
Heart has a timeless classic beauty, and she has an elegance and a style that really demands to be showcased. So it was
that's
a
true.
very, very easy choice to make.
So true.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
We love her.
I think I've always said this, and I think the role that you play, not just in putting Asians in the spotlight, but I'll be honest with you, Filipinos, for example, it's really vital in the sense that all over the world, Filipinos sometimes are thought of to be just a particular either profession, and by you putting Filipinos in your book, right? Or for
Yes.
example, having Heart in that Harper's Bazaar pictorial, right? As one of those four women. Having Filipinos mentioned in your books as one of these wealthy women, it makes a subconscious difference generationally in time that Filipinos are more than what is perceived to be all over the world. And it's a battle we constantly have to face. You know what I mean, Kevin?
True.
So I
Absolutely.
think
Yeah.
And
I
that's,
personally appreciate you for that. You
Yeah,
know,
you know,
that
yeah.
you want to put the race, introduce the race in so many other ways.
yeah. I,
Thank
I
you.
actually want to inject something like
Yeah.
ever since I did Harper's Bazaar, you cannot imagine the change that it affected like with my
Yeah.
career. Usually when I attend fashion shows or when they give me clothes to wear, I get like the leftovers. And I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not the type. I'm very grateful just for them to invite me and
Mm.
send clothes. But then after the Harper's Bazaar, there was a complete change. I would get first pick. They'd make me pick whatever I wanted, and I didn't just
Wow.
get what was given. And that was because of that. And you know, I mean,
That's
makes such a
because,
huge difference because Filipinos, yes, they're known to be like boxers, and you know, but there's not really
yes.
more. I feel like the stage can still be shared more with the Filipinos, and
Yes.
you did that for us. So thank you.
You
Yeah.
are more than
Amazing.
welcome. And I just, you know,
Yeah.
that's part of my mission in life is really to showcase
Yes.
Asia in all its full diversity. And when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
represent, when you showcase that to the world, that's the power, you know?
Yeah.
That's why the actors in my movie now are like considered A-list. You know, who would ever
Yes.
imagine?
Yes.
And people would be rushing to dress them and put them on covers, you know? And
Yeah.
that was the whole point of writing Crazy Rich Asians, to
Yeah.
show that
Mm.
Asia isn't just about, because in America, the stereotype is Asians were the nerds, right?
Yes.
Or the
Yes.
history of
Yeah.
the Asians in America, we
Yes.
built the railroads, or we run the
Mm,
laundromats,
mm,
you know? And
mm,
it's
mm,
like,
mm. Yes.
no,
Exactly.
sorry, there's a different story
Yeah.
happening in Asia.
Yes.
And, you know,
Yeah.
it's very different. And I've always thought, you know, this is even before Crazy Rich Asians, that the Filipinos were always the most exquisitely dressed. Always.
Mm.
You know, whenever I would
Wow.
see
Really?
them, yeah, absolutely. You know, and even other people in the fashion world would say this. You know, a very important designer I know once told me, you know, like when he would see the Filipinos, like, you know, the society
Yeah.
goddesses,
Yeah.
they just,
Mm,
you know, they blew everyone else away.
You know, I
So
think
mm.
I
Like
wanted to
who?
showcase
Like
that.
who?
Yeah.
Kevin,
I
who?
like you.
I'm
Go
gonna
ahead.
protect the privacy of people by
Okay.
refraining from saying.
I think
But
the reason
but
why
I
You know,
like what Karen.
so
Go ahead. Go
yeah.
ahead. Heart.
they're
Go ahead.
always
No,
Yeah.
and
and
Heart first.
prepared is because Filipinos are so hardworking and we're so appreciative with what we have. And
Yeah.
you know, every time we present ourselves to people, we're just prepared because that's how we are. You know, we're
Yeah.
grateful for your presence. We entertain you, and this is how we entertain you in a way. So that's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. And then I
True.
wanted to
Karen.
ask you, Kevin, you said that already Hollywood is after the book. Sony already wants to make a film. And I want to ask you in relation to COVID-19, because at the start of the pandemic, all over the world, we saw actually discrimination against you can Asians or Chinese. There were so many videos I saw, Anton, of s- um, Caucasians, screaming at Chinese
Oh yes.
individuals on the
Yeah.
street. This is
Or
because of you.
Filipinos. Yeah.
Yes, and it was just hate, racial slurs. So I wanted to ask you. In fact, when I saw that, even without the book, I figured, oh my, what about all the work in pop culture that Crazy Rich Asians had already put in place with
Mm.
COVID-19? I'm curious, Kevin, from where you stand in LA, did you see that? Did you have those fears of all the work that Crazy Rich Asians changed in Hollywood? And then COVID-19 came, and then you had Donald Trump at one point saying this is a Chinese virus, you know,
Still saying that. Still
still
saying that.
saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you have that worry and the fact that you know,
Absolutely. I mean, you know, my mother lives in the United States part of the year, and she's 80 years old. So I worry for her, you know, as she, you
yeah,
know, as she goes through life. And I've heard so many stories of friends and relatives and people I know who have been verbally attacked, and some physically attacked. Yesterday, an 85-year-old lady was set on fire in New York.
Oh
No.
my God, really?
Absolutely. An 85-year-old Chinese woman was attacked and set on fire, So but I really think this is just a symptom. I think for the most part, Americans are still a great, great, kind people. I think the majority of people are not racist, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And they're good-hearted people. And I see it in my daily life. I see it in my readers. But I do think that's why it's so important to have work out there.
Yes,
to have
exactly.
Books and TV
And to
shows
have more like this. Yeah.
and movies, because the more you demystify people who seem to be different than the majority, and the more it relates to people, the more humanized they are.
Yeah.
So I think America, we are a country of immigrants, and we are a racially diverse country of Asians, of Black people, of Hispanics, of Middle Easterns, of, every color of the rainbow is here in America. And that is what we ultimately are. So we're not going to let a few racist, people ruin it.
Take over.
I mean, there is, people are afraid. I get it. There's so much fear, and people want to naturally just lash out at the closest thing they can see. And it's very reductive, and it's very idiotic. But unfortunately, there will be people like that anywhere in the world. But I'm hopeful. I mean, we're really trying to draw awareness here, in the U.S. about how it's like, this is not a Chinese disease. This could have happened anywhere.
Exactly.
And most of these people, my mother's never been to China. She doesn't speak Chinese. Why would you attack her? She has nothing to do with this. She's lived in her hometown in the U.S. for 35 years. So but here we are. But I don't.
You don't think, you don't think, Kevin, that it will affect all the work that you've done? I mean, right? All the steps that you've taken, all the.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so, because to me, America is becoming more and more racially diverse all the time. It's becoming more accepting all the time.
Very good.
I especially, I see that more and more these days. And the new generation, the younger people, look at what's happening with Black Lives Matter. The fact that
amazing.
The entire country has come out in support of something that really needed to happen. And now there's a whole movement of mothers. Because there's all these protests in Portland, Oregon, and the president sent out these federal troops to try to rein things in. And there are mothers now standing in line, American white mothers defending the protesters, saying, no, this is a country where we have a right to free speech and a right to protest. And we're going to protect these people. So
I'm curious, will you always write about mixed Chinese characters, or at one point would you want to write about mixed characters that may not have to be Chinese?
I know.
I don't know what I'll ultimately. I'm going to keep writing books, hopefully, a lot of books, and for now, I feel the importance of showcasing different types of Asians. That's still part of my mission. It might evolve with time. Maybe I'll write a book about, French people. Who knows? But for now, my mission, what I feel is important, what the stories I want to tell, involve people, of diverse Asian backgrounds.
Yeah.
That's the stories I'm interested in the moment.
I have a question. What comes first? Like, you're writing a book, then there's a movie, then, it's all happening at the same time. How do you know which one is going to come first? Because while you're writing the Hollywood thing and all of that,
it's a bit complicated, and it really depends on every project. For example, right now I'm creating a TV show, and it's been 4 years in the making at this point. So when is it actually going to launch? I don't know. But what I've found in Hollywood, and what I've learned in Hollywood the last few years working there, is that you have to have so many projects on the boil at the same time. Most people with development companies, like Reese Witherspoon, she has 30, 40 projects. and in
Wow,
development,
fantastic.
and maybe 3 or 4 of those will happen every year.
Yeah.
So you have, you have to have a lot of balls in the air in development, and one of them will happen. So, I'm
Yeah.
still very new at this. This is only my second TV show that I'm developing, and I'm told I
Okay.
should be doing a lot more, but I like to be
But
very focused on what I do.
Is it a limited series what you're doing, or is it like just an endless running TV show?
I mean, the hope is that it's going to be a drama series, like a 1-hour drama, nighttime sort of soap
Love
opera,
it.
Yes.
sort of like a dynasty in Asia.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's David Lynch.
That'd be
Right.
amazing.
The idea. But
Wow,
we'll see.
really?
Love it. Fighting in high heels.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
And shoulder pads.
ripping the
Wait,
couture
we have
dress.
so many questions as well from the audience. We're gonna chime in, and we're ready. Heart. Oh, will Heart Evangelista from Stephanie Janelko? Will Heart Evangelista be a part of any of your upcoming movies or shows?
I personally would love to make that happen. I'm of course only one vote. When you do a movie or a TV show, it's always a huge team project, and there are literally dozens of decision makers and Hollywood executives and network executives. You wouldn't believe, last year I did this one TV show. We did the pilot for a comedy series called Emperor of Malibu. And just to cast, 5 characters, it almost killed me. Like I literally lost years of my life fighting for the actors that I wanted to. Because they had to go through so many rounds,
Yeah.
One actress, she auditioned 30 times.
Wow.
Wow.
And
Wow.
she flew out from New York like 8 times to do
My
these. I mean, it was
Wow.
crazy what happens in
And
Hollywood.
did she get it, Kevin?
She did.
Did
She
she get
did.
the role?
She
Well,
did.
I'm proud to say I can say it, right, Kevin?
Yeah.
I can say it.
Yeah.
I'm proud to say that my bag made it in the series.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tara was kind enough to let us showcase, her beautifully painted Birkin bags. And so I 2 of them front row and center in the TV show.
Great.
Yeah. But yeah, casting is a whole bag of worms. And I hope one day the stars can align and we can find the perfect project to really showcase your talents. And that would really be so
you.
lovely.
You gotta hold
I will keep fighting for that.
Karen, do you want to read the question?
I fought for Chris
Is
Aquino.
it Duty? Duty Tuason?
Dudai.
Dudai.
Okay. What striking similarities and differences do you see between Singaporean and Filipino high society?
I think the similarities is that there's a love for family and such a respect for family and for tradition, and Singaporeans and Filipinos likewise are very, very proud of their cultures. Personally, I think Filipinos have way more fun. The parties are much livelier. There's more dancing and singing, and it's funny. Doris Ho was very kind enough to throw a party the last time I was in the Philippines. A beautiful dinner party, and she invited an old friend of hers who is an old family friend of mine from Singapore. And, he comes from one of these very, very old establishment families. And we were at this lovely party, and he said, they don't do it like this in Singapore anymore. You couldn't throw a party like this in Singapore anymore.
Doris is one of the best hosts.
Exactly.
Hostess.
So much
entertains very well.
Yeah.
From Heart, you want to read this?
Yes, Crazy Rich Asian did a lot of Asian representation in Hollywood. Why do you think it's taken this long to get Asian stories in the mainstream?
Here's from
gosh.
From
How long
Nacho
do you have,
Tambunting. Hi,
Ignacio?
Nacho.
National.
Nacho. It's a long, complicated answer, but I think it's a combination of the fact that starting in the 80s and 90s, Hollywood started taking less risks. The 70s were the golden age, where there was amazing experimentation, amazing directors like Francis Ford Coppola and Martin Scorsese. They could make risky movies. But suddenly, all these studios got bought up by, major conglomerates. And it was all about profit and shareholder profit. So they wanted to take as little risk as possible. So what do you do when you take a little risk as possible? You cast Brad Pitt in everything, or
Yeah.
Angelina Jolie, or all the big box office names. And so you take less risks on new talent, whether it's Asian talent or Black talent, but Asians especially were super underrepresented. There's only been 3 mainstream Hollywood movies since the creation of Hollywood to have
Yeah,
all
yeah.
Asian cast,
Wow.
Yeah. The
And
Joy
the
Luck
first one,
Club is one.
Yeah.
the first one was the Flower Drum song in
Yeah.
1965,
Yes.
I believe. And my cousin was in that, Nancy Kwan. She was the
Oh.
barrier-breaking actress of her day.
Yes.
The first female Asian woman on the cover of Life magazine.
Wow.
And then it was the Joy Luck Club, and then it was Crazy Rich Asians. And I think it's also because the Asian American experience, being immigrants, first generation, second generation, your parents really push you into doing professional things, that make money, that will help support the family. They want you, the dream, of course, of most Asian parents is to, for you to become a doctor or a lawyer or oral surgeon, or a CPA, something that really secures your lifestyle. And so it was so hard for my generation and even the one before to branch out, to do risky things, to say, no, I'm going to art school, or no, I'm going to film school, or even I'm going to be an actor.
Yeah.
Because the culture wasn't letting us take those risks.
Yeah.
And but the culture, I mean, the Asian American culture, there was so much pressure to do well in school, bring home the bacon. So it's twofold. But then, hopefully now with more projects happening, and there's a more of a path of viability, people can see that, yes, you can actually make a living as an Asian actor in America.
Yeah.
Then more people will try it.
Yeah. No, and I wanted to add, Kevin, it's also about who produces and who holds the money in Hollywood, right? Because in the early days, you'd have Jewish millionaires, billionaires that owned the studio, right? So of course, casting, the storytelling would be geared towards what essentially Jewish producers would want, right? Or a certain type. But then we saw recently, for example, with Parasite. I mean, I think that was so telling when Parasite also won Best Picture in the Academy Awards. And one of the producers essentially was the owners of Samsung. Am I correct,
Yeah.
Kevin? So for Parasite to have reached Hollywood, it's a good movie. It's a brilliant film. The director was brilliant. But let's face it, if it didn't have the backing of Samsung, I mean, who knows? Would it have even reached would it have even reached the Academy? Because in the beginning, when everybody was asking the woman to come up on stage, Kevin,
Nikki,
nobody
who I
knew
know.
her.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she's one of the most
You know,
powerful women in Asia. She has created so many amazing bands. She has broken so many actors. And she's
And then
it's amazing. Yeah, she's literally unknown to the general public.
Exactly. So it's a question of who holds the purse also, because you can actually push the agenda of storytelling in Hollywood. And now that there are more, if it's right to say, Kevin, also wealthier Asians in Hollywood, right? That support you in wanting the agenda pushed. Right?
Absolutely. And they did that. The
right?
Asian entrepreneurs, the Asian money class, they came out, they bought up whole theaters.
Exactly.
They called it the Gold Open. They wanted to prove that this movie could do well on opening weekend. And so they really, really supported it. It was amazing. But it's true. I think you're making a very interesting point. Not only do we need that support, but it needs to begin on the corporate level. There are literally 2 or 3 Asians who are in positions of power in the corporate side of Hollywood, who are running the studios, who there's so few of them, And when we made Crazy Rich Asians, we had Kevin Sujihara, a Japanese American. He was the head of Warner Brothers at the time, and he was such a champion for us. I don't know if he hadn't been there, whether it would have been a different story. So there is a fundamental systemic problem where there needs to be more Asians in these power positions who can greenlight the films, who can greenlight the TV shows and say, hey, we want to take a risk on that. And thankfully there is this rising, class of power players. Look at Mindy Kaling, the Indian American actress. She's a powerhouse. you know, and she's got these movies, she's got this amazing TV show on Netflix. She's just creating amazing content with her production company. So she's this rising power base that can have an influence to really greenlight projects, you know. So that's one example, and there need to be more.
Great. Next, great question, Karen. Next, from Marilyn Jacinto, is the house that was used as the house of the Youngs the current Raffles Hotel in Singapore?
Actually, it wasn't. So we actually used the Raffles Hotel in Singapore as a location. They were very nice to open up the hotel. And so that's the hotel where Nick and Rachel are staying throughout the movie. The house, Tyersall Park, you know, which you see where the grandmother lives, where the beautiful party was, that was actually shot at an old mansion in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur.
Oh.
It was an old Sultan's mansion that became a hotel, like a boutique hotel, and then was then not abandoned, but nothing was happening there for about 10 years when we got to it. And so, you know, the amazing Hollywood set designers took it over. They, you know, there are monkeys living in the house, cleaned it up and just created this amazing set. It's all Hollywood magic that you see. But the original house is in Malaysia.
Great.
And now it's a museum, I believe. They're turning it into a museum. So.
Heart, you want to read this?
Yes, this is from Kat Samuya Alipon. How are you coping creative-wise during the pandemic? I love your writing style and really look up to the way you pave solid Asian representation in Hollywood.
Thank you, Kat. You know, it's like anyone else. You know, I have good days and bad days. This has been such a surreal experience for all of us to be in, you know? And so some days I'm too anxious to write and do anything and think, and I don't even want to get out of bed. But other days I'm very productive and I'm working on a book or working on a movie script or a TV script, and I have a productive day. So every day is different. And I think if there's one thing that's taught me about this whole experience, it's really taught me to be present and to just value and appreciate every single day and to just, you know, really try to live in the present.
Great answer. How many more questions do we have? I think we have one more question. Karen, you want to take this?
Yeah, is there something unique culture behavior about Manila's high society that we may not be aware of as Filipinos?
I don't think I'm the expert in answering that question. I think Anton should answer that question. You know, I think every culture is unique, right? And I think it really depends on the person. Who is the host? Everyone's doing something original.
Yes, so true. It's not about me, it's about you. So we're going to go to the next question. From Rufa May Robles, will Kevin write a book about idol culture in Asia? Would be interesting and contemporary. LOL, I feel like I'm pitching.
What is idol culture? I'm not sure I know what that even is.
Yeah.
Just idolizing people, like idolizing
culture. Like if I'm not
okay.
Wow,
you know, I have to write about things I know about, unfortunately, and I know so little about K-pop. Other than knowing who BTS is, I'm so not part of that world at all.
So wait, Kevin, you haven't seen K-drama too?
I have not.
Me too. I have not.
Yeah.
Me too.
I've watched a few. I've watched Crash Landing, and I'm not the type, but so good.
Crash Landing.
People are addicted to K-drama.
Oh my God.
A lot of people are.
I have.
I mean, it's a whole industry unto itself. You know, I have friends in New York. I know these New York socialites who are obsessed with K-dramas. You know,
and they're really
good.
Characters are all well dressed, and every little detail to the last stud is so good.
Yeah. Also, you know, India. I don't know. You guys have seen. There's an amazing series called Made in Heaven.
Made in
Heaven from Netflix India, and it's about these two wedding planners who plan these crazy rich Indian weddings.
Wow.
And so every episode is a different amazing wedding, and it's just beautiful series, really well done. Yeah.
Actually, there's an old film of Pride and Prejudice that's Bride and Prejudice Indian.
I remember that.
You saw that?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Next
So
question.
Joey,
From Joey Dizon, did you feel this is the best timing given that people can't travel? So best way is read your book and use their imagination with your very vivid writing. So this is a
yeah, thank you for asking that question. I had actually no decision. I mean, I didn't have any power in deciding when to release the book. It was really a publisher's decision. And, I turned in the book in February before the pandemic had begun. But within a few weeks, suddenly we were in lockdown and we were seeing all these things happen. So I really did sit down with my publishers and say, is this the right time to be releasing this book? Because, so many, very serious, terrible things are happening. Like, I don't want to seem like I'm tone deaf to the tragedy and what's happening and the suffering,
Yeah, very
and my
good.
publisher really fought for this to be. They're like, no, they say, people want a laugh. People want to be
An escape.
an
escape.
escape. And so
Yeah.
I basically had to let them do what they wanted. And so far I've been getting, nothing but really, really positive reactions. People are enjoying the escape. And so if there's
I
a
love
way
the
I
book.
could have, contribute to having,
Great.
helping people have a moment of joy, during this time, then that's great.
Exactly. Maybe we can have one last question. We're over an hour already. One last question. From Cart, you want to read this?
This is from Brian Andrew. Hi, Kevin. How do you define high society and why a lot of Asians are not considered in the Western high society?
I mean, high society has always existed in many different countries and cultures. And it's usually made up of people who are the top philanthropists, business owners, politicians, in each country. And so that's how I would define it. And the second part of your question, why are a lot of Asians not considered in the Western high society? For example, I can only speak of New York. New York has its own social circle and a high society crowd. But within that high society crowd, there are a few Asian socialites, who are very active and who are very respected in that crowd. So I think it really depends from city to city. You have to want to be part of it. It's not like you win a membership or anything. It's almost like a full-time job for people who are participating in, going to the benefits and organizing
charities.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of work behind the scenes that happens. So it's a full-time job.
By the way, I was checking the comments, Anton, and I wanted to say hello to Rahul Laurel, Stephanie Zubiri, Garlic Garcia. They're all there.
Hello,
Yes,
hello.
they're
Hey
watching
guys,
you.
thank you.
Thanks for watching.
So
Yeah.
we have one more question, or that's it? I think that's the last question. We're over an hour, so thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Kevin. Kevin, can you invite people to buy the book, which is available in National Bookstore and Fully Booked?
And fully booked.
Yes. Kevin, and a message to your Filipino fans and friends and people around Asia.
Thank you so much for all your support over all these years. And I really, hope you enjoy this new book. What else is there to say? I hope everyone stays safe. And, I hope that this book will, lend people some escape and lots of laughter, hopefully, in the book.
It will get the book, guys. That's it. We'd like to thank you for joining us today. To Karen Davila, thank you so much. And to Heart Evangelista, thank you so much. And to Kevin, a heartfelt thanks. Now you can go on vacation
all of you.
if you have
Thank
the
you,
time.
Anton. Thank you, Heart. Thank you, Karen. I know you guys are all so
Thanks.
busy.
We love you.
So
Love you
thank
guys.
We love
Thanks for taking
you.
the time. Thank you.
Good night. Keep
Yeah.
safe.
Thank you.
Like us and follow us on Tatler Philippines and get a copy of the book Sex and Vanity. And watch out for more exciting Tatler talks in the future. Today's a holiday, actually. So enjoy your extended vacation in Asia, everyone around. Have a good one. Have a blessed weekend. God bless. Thank you very much, guys. See
Happy
you.
holidays.
Hey,
Take
send me
care.
the photo, Anton.
Yeah.
I will.
Do one more?
Yeah,
Okay,
send me the
1,
photo.
2,
Ah. I want more screenshot.
1,
Who's gonna do
2,
it?
3. I'll send you the photos.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you,
all so
guys.
much. See you
soon.
soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.